Hello aspirants, welcome to another session of the daily newspaper analysis. This video is brought to you by the Gurudev Academy. This is something about me. You can follow me on these social media handles. Firstly, we look at the topics that we are going to do in today's newspaper. This is the Sunday's newspaper that we are doing. So, firstly, we are looking at this topic where a recent study has showed that the warning labels, what are the type of warning labels that has to be prescribed, and which type of warning label is more useful when it comes to the warning labels that are put on the food items. Okay, so this warning labels, recently a study was conducted where 5 type of warning labels were tracked, and what are the effects which is more effective was calculated here. This is in news because recently the FSSI, okay, the FSSI is expected to come out with a new draft regulation where it is trying to choose the best warning labels so that the consumer is informed about the product as well as what kind of fats, carbohydrates, nutrients it contains here. Okay, so here when the study was conducted around some of the cities by one of the organization here, it was found out that when we look at the warnings that the FSSI is favoring, the FSSI is favoring the health star here. Okay, it is favoring that the health star. This health star, it gives the rating from 0.5 to 5 ratings based on the nutrient quality of a product here. But what the study has found out that the warning label here, which is used by some of the countries like Chile and Israel, it is more effective than the warning label that the FSSI is favoring, which is health star here. Okay, this is the report here. It has come in the front page. When we look at the issue, you have to understand FSSI. See, FSSI is the organization which prescribes the food standards and quality in India here, and FSSI comes under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Please look at the different types of FOPLs. Okay, food warning on the products here. Okay, so these are some of the FOPLs. The FSSI, it is favoring which warning label? It is favoring health star warning label. But the study has showed that the warning labels which says that if the product is harmful, which shows different colors, shapes, and graphics, it is more effective in showing the health indicators to the consumer here. Okay. Nextly, we look at this issue here where the ministry, okay, where the external Union Ministry of State for External Affairs, V. Muralidharan, has come out and said that government is maintaining vigil on the Chinese ship. We have this Yuan Wang 5, okay, Yuan Wang 5 ship that has come to Hambantota port. Okay, Hambantota port. The China claims that it is a satellite tracking ship, but India has been fearing that it is a spy ship which is around the shores of India here. So there has been a lot of discussion, debates that has been going on at the ministry level as well as your other level of the diplomats that India is very apprehensive. India has been talking with Sri Lanka as well about this issue. So this is one the Union Ministry of State has come out and given a statement that they are keeping a close eye on the ship. Other than this, the ministry has come out and given a statement about the Kachatevu island here. Okay, Kachatevu island, it is one of the island that is along your Park Street. Okay, so when we look at the brief history of this island here, this island, it is an uninhabited offshore island that is in Park State. This island is used by the fishermen here to dry their nets. Okay, it has been mainly used to dry their nets here. So what has been the history here is that during the British rule, this island was administered jointly by India and Sri Lanka. But later on, during several agreements that happened, during several border agreements, during the 1974 border agreement, we had this 1976 treaties and all. So during all these, slowly India gave up the ownership of this island, and this island was administered by who? It was administered by the Sri Lankan government here. But things changed after your Elam war here. Okay, that broke out in 1983 as well as your 1976 treaty. What happened is both the countries demarcated the international maritime borderline here, and over the course of history, both the countries agreed that they will not be fishing in this area here. But the fishermen here knows no boundaries. There have been instances where the Indian fishermen have been violating this IMBL and fishing in this Kachatevu island. So now this issue is being raised by Sri Lanka in some of the international courts here. If the matter is being investigated, the minister has said that the government right now is not commenting anything. They are not commenting whether who should be owner of this island for now. So it has to be seen once the verdict comes out, and what are the geopolitical implications of this island here. Okay. Please remember the Kachativu Island, it comes under your Park Bay, and the issue is between your India and Sri Lanka here. Fine. So moving ahead, Russia crops fertilizers must reach world market. So last month we had this joint coordinated center agreement that was signed between Russia, Ukraine, as well as UN and Turkey. The agreement was signed separately. That is, Russia signed a separate agreement with UN and Turkey, as well as Ukraine signed a separate agreement with Turkey and UN, where it was guaranteed that the Russian fertilizers as well as the Russian crops will be allowed to be transported or exported from the Black Sea here. See, the West has been putting a lot of sanction on Russian products here. Despite of the product, the Turkey and the UN have been acting as a guarantor under this JCC agreement that the Russian products will be allowed to be traded in the international market. When we look at the contributions here, why it is important, see, both Russia and Ukraine are very important when it comes to your food basket. Okay, because both of them export something called as wheat, barley and maize. These are some of the main products that are exported by these two countries. These two countries are the top two exporters when it comes to wheat, barley and maize. But when it comes to your Russia is the main exporter of fertilizers. So what the UN chief is saying, that if fertilizers from Russia is not exported, we will be having food crisis not only in 2022, we will be having food crisis in 2023 as well as in 2024, is what the article is talking about here. Please remember the products that are exported from these two countries, that is wheat, barley and maize. Moving ahead, L&T commissions green hydrogen plant in Hazara. Okay, so green hydrogen plant has been established by your L&T here. Okay, it has been established in Hazara. So what is green hydrogen? Firstly, we'll understand that. See, we have three types of hydrogen that come about. That is your blue hydrogen, gray hydrogen, as well as green hydrogen. When you look at all these three and when you read the context here, you will understand what is the importance of green hydrogen. When you extract green hydrogen, there is no emission of CO2. Okay, there is no emission of CO2 because the electricity is split into water. Okay, the electricity splits water into hydrogen and oxygen, and the byproduct is water as well as water vapor. Whereas when we look at the other two hydrogens that are available, that is your blue hydrogen as well as your gray hydrogen, the byproducts are harmful for the environment here. So the government has already been establishing some of the green hydrogen parks. We have seen the NTPC establish one of the green hydrogen parks in the Visakhapatnam as well last year. So the government also has been active in pursuing the green hydrogen. Green hydrogen is again important to achieve your carbon neutrality that the government has announced, which will be achieved by 2014, as well as water neutrality. Okay, that will be achieved by 2035. Okay, so achieve these two goals, it is very important that India pursues its green hydrogen policy. Okay, these are some of the points that you can see here. Nextly, we are talking about improved rice yield with the additional gene. Okay, so we have to understand that India does not support the growth or the harvesting of your genetically modified crops. Okay, because India considers them as the transgenic crops. Here, the government does not allow for any other crops to be developed through GM mode except your BT cotton. Okay, BT cotton is the only crop that is grown through genetic modification. Here, what the article is talking about here is that recently a study has been conducted where one of the Chinese rice variety is given the second copy. Okay, of its original copy. Right? So what it is doing is, it is not introducing any new gene in this Chinese rice variety. It is giving the second copy to the original copy here. Okay, what is the result is that there has been increase in the yield by 40%. This is important for India because see, India is the world's largest exporter of rice. And due to the green revolution that we saw initially, the green revolution has had its bad effect on India as well because of the overuse of fertilizers and overuse of the water level as well. Right? So there has been decrease in the water table, as well as there has been soil erosion. Right? So in these conditions, India has to pursue this type of genetic modulation, is what the author is arguing here. When we look at it here it is not genetic modification. What do we mean by genetic modification? Under genetic modification, we are introducing new gene to a crop. But here what we are doing, we are just genetically modulating. Modulating how? We are just giving the second copy of the same plant, same crop, to the same Chinese rice variety here. Okay. So the author is arguing one more point here, that last year we had this genetically modified soya beans that are going to be introduced in India to feed the livestock. Okay, last year we had this issue where the livestock, that is your chicken and all, they were the chicken farms and all, they were finding it the shortage of your soya beans here. So what the government decided is they are going to import some of the genetically modified soya beans to feed the livestock. So the author is arguing that when the government is ready to import the GM soya bean, why can't it just take a step and introduce your genetically modulations in some of the crops, so that the food security for India is guaranteed. Okay? So these are some of the issues that have been discussed here. So that's it from today's video. You can follow us on social media handles. You can follow us on YouTube, Telegram, Instagram, as well as on Facebook. Thank you. Hello aspirants. Welcome to the daily session of the newspaper analysis. This video is brought to you by the Gurudev Academy. My name is Ashwin. There is something about me. You can follow me on these social media handles. These are the topic that we are going to look at. Firstly, we are going to look at the editorial that has come up. What next on the data protection law? See, recently the bill that was presented in the parliament, okay, it has gone through various discussions, as well as it was referred to the JPC and all. So after a lot of deliberations, the government has decided to take back the bill here. So the editor here, what he's talking about is that they are talking about what were the flaws in this bill, as well as what should be the next steps that the government has to take when they are introducing the new bill. So firstly, when we look at the context goes back to the K.S. Puttaswamy verdict that was given by the Supreme Court here. Under K.S. Puttaswamy case, the Supreme Court came out and said that the right to privacy has two implications. It has both positive implication as well as the negative implication. The positive implication gives it forces the government to have a proper data protection law to protect the privacy of every citizens. This forced the government here to bring out the new data protection law. When we look at the data protection law, there were different expectations of this data protection law, because there was a lot of penetration of digital economy right now. We have that in the form of our UPI transactions, as well as different types of ways and means of digital economy that has been taking place, as well as there are different stakeholders when it comes to your data protection. There are individuals, there are domestic industries, there is a state that is expecting different things from this data protection law. So the editor talks here about different perspective of this. Firstly, when we look at the individual was expecting that the data protection law will give them what? It will restrict harmful data processing. Okay, so here harmful data processing will give more freedom of speech, it will give more freedom of privacy for the individuals here. But if the same data protection law was flawed, it will allow these data processing industries to use the data of these individuals in a harmful way. Secondly, when the domestic industries were expecting that this data protection law will be less compliant. In the previous video, I have said that the domestic industries were opposing this data protection law that was brought about because it was more compliant related. It was not right based. Okay. So the domestic industry here was looking at it as a compliant hurdle. It was looking at which the laws would restrict its flow. It will restrict its business. Okay. When we look at state, okay, the state was expecting that this data protection law will limit the intrusion of data processing. Why? Because we are a sovereign nation, and if the data processing industries were using the data that is present in our country against our own, it will affect the sovereignty of our country. So the state was expecting that this data protection law will have less intrusion, will have less harmful effects on the data processing is what the author is talking about. Nextly, when we look at the law that was brought about, the law initially was mainly involved in what? It was mainly talked about the data protection. But once deliberation started and once it reached the JPC, that is a joint parliamentary committee, the joint parliamentary committee recommended here what? It recommended that more than data protection, it had to look after every aspect of data protection, as well as it started to have a framework to regulate the social media as well. Fine. So that was not the intention of this data protection law initially. There was a lot of dilution of this bill in its various stages is what the author is talking about. Nextly, when this new bill is going to come about, the government has come out and said that they are going to introduce the new data protection bill very soon. The author talks here that what has to be the way forward. The way forward here has to be that the new bill has to address two crucial issues, that is the form of the new law as well as the nature of the protection it will offer. When we look at the form of the law, here, the government has said that it will introduce a comprehensive legal framework, which is a right approach. Because see, when we are trying to regulate every aspect of this data that is available, here there has to be multiple regulators, there has to be multiple laws. Previously, when we looked at the dilution here, the dilution was happening in the form that one law was going to regulate not only your data, but it was going to regulate the social media as well. This was not the right direction. Here the government, what it is trying to say is that now whatever the new law will be coming up, it will be a comprehensive law. It will be having multiple laws. It will be having multiple authorities to look into every aspect of data protection as well as your social media regulation. Nextly, when we look at the nature of the protection it will offer, see the previous law that was came, okay, that was in 2018, the previous law that was the bill that was brought about, this data protection bill was mainly based on your European General Data Protection Regulation. Okay, so the GDPR that was brought about, okay, this is the first data protection law to be brought out in any country. Fine. So when European Union brought this out, India also tried to bring out the new data protection law based on this model only, based on your GDPR. But India has to, the government here has to recognize that there is a lot of diversity when it comes to India. There are different types of rule of law that has to be applied here. That is why the new law should not follow the model of GDPR, but it should be based on the requirement of our Indian citizens is what it is talking about. Lastly, the author here talks about the various provisions of the law. That is, what should be the different dimensions as well as the aspects of this new law that is going to come up. Firstly, they talk about the risk-based approach of data protection. That is, whatever the new law that will be brought about, it should address source of the potential harm. Okay, so wherever there will be harm, like we saw the data processing industries, the new law should address these problems, the potential harm that can be caused by these data processing industries. Nextly, they talk about based on risk assessment. That is, there should be co-regulation and self-regulation. See, as we have seen, there should not be a single authority or single regulator regulating the whole data ecosystem, because the data ecosystem is very huge. So when we have this system of co-regulation as well as self-regulation, there will be a lot of compliance is what the author is talking here. Nextly, accountability. Fine. So what the previous bill that was brought about, it was not accountability based, it was giving a lot of power to single authority. So the new bill that has to be brought in, the new bill has to be look into aspects where the power that has been given to the authority, it has to use it well. The power has to be used judiciously is what the author is talking. Lastly, before this new law will be brought in, before the new bill will be brought in, there has to be a lot of capacity building among the administrative wings. Okay, administrative wings. Why? Because the capacity of this administrative wings to adopt to the new law should be changed. The administrative wings should be thought about what are the rights and the wrongs when it comes to data protection is what the author is highlighting here, and it is what he is concluding. Fine. So it is a very important issue. So please look into the article. Nextly, this is the news that has come up that says that not planning to levy charges on UPI. See, this is in the context that few days back the RBI came out with a report and said that the UPI transactions as well as your NEFT as well as IMPS transaction should be charged. But the government has come out and said that for now they have no plans of charging any UPI transactions. what you have to understand here is that what is UPI? It is the Unified Payment Interface, and who regulates it? This UPI is regulated by your NPCI, that is National Payment Corporation of India. UPSC has already asked one question about this, so please look at it. NPCI is not a statutory body, it is not a constitutional body, it is a not-for-profit company. Okay, it is a not-for-profit company. It has been established under your Companies Act of 2013. Nextly, the NPCI is being administered jointly by RBI as well as IBA. IBA here is your Indian Banking Association. What are the other products that NPCI offers? It offers something called as NETC. Okay, it offers your UPI transaction. It offers your other e-based payment system. It also has launched the RuPay cards. Okay, please, so whenever UPI is in news, please look at what NPCI is. Okay, who regulates your UPI system here. Nextly, this is the article that has come up. See, on August 1st, the Election Commission has launched an initiative where it has asked every citizen to link their voter ID with Aadhaar system here. But the government here yesterday has come out and said that linking of Aadhaar and voter ID is not compulsory. Okay, it is voluntary. So this law, this provision was brought in under your Election Law Amendment Bill of 2021, where it was mentioned that along with Form 6B of your voter ID, Aadhaar number also should be mentioned. Okay, so but this exercise is voluntary. It is not compulsory. The government has repeatedly come out and said that it is voluntary, but one of the NGO has found that this some of the states are forcing for these new voter ID holders to link their Aadhaar here. Okay, so the government has come out and said that it is voluntary. Please remember that Aadhaar has to be linked with your PAN card. Okay, here as well it is voluntary. Right? So these are some of the provisions here. Nextly, this is your explained section here. The explained section here talks about your Delhi police use of facial recognition technology. See, this has been in news because recently there has been allegations that the facial recognition technology that the Delhi police has been using, it is violating the provisions of constitution. It is violating right of privacy. So we will look at what are the issues here. See, Delhi police here has been using your facial recognition technology under Southern Haldar direction. Okay, Southern Haldar direction. According to this, initially Delhi police was using this facial recognition technology, that is FRT, to recognize and to find out missing children. Fine, but later on during your NRC and CAA protest, as well as the riots that Delhi saw during 2021. During all these times, the Delhi police has been increasingly using the facial recognition technology. So when we look at facial recognition technology, there are two types here. That is, firstly, your verification of identity that comes under 1:1 technology. Okay, where the person is present there. Okay, where the present there, and the facial mapping is done based on the person who is standing in front of the camera. Like we have seen during the time of biometric data that was collected during Aadhaar registration, iris recognition was being done here. Okay, so when we look at verification of identity, the person is standing in front of the camera and the facial map is being done there. Secondly, we have facial map from photos. Okay, facial mapping is being conducted from the photos available, and it is being matched with a database that is already there. This facial map from the photos is being used in the case of by the police here. Okay, by the police in the case of any crime. Okay, or if there is a kidnapping, or in the case of identification of dead bodies. Okay, so all this is being done under the police here. But when we look at 1:1, it is mainly used to provide for government schemes here. Okay, when facial recognition is compulsory in such schemes, 1:1 is being used. But what are the issues here? Okay, when we look at the issues here, the issues are that firstly, there can be misidentification due to inconsistency or inaccuracy. Okay, so when this facial recognition technology was adopted by the Delhi police here, they found out that the accuracy was around 2%. Okay, so this created a lot of misconception that the misidentification may lead to false accusation or arrest. Okay, we have already seen this there have been examples from all around the world that false accusation and arrest have been happening due to misidentification using the FRT technology. Okay, as also there can be exclusion from various schemes, example Aadhaar. Okay, so last year only we had this report that many of these Aadhaar based the Supreme Court as well came out and said that Aadhaar is not compulsory for the availing of government benefits, availing of benefits from the government scheme here. Why? Because due to misidentification, due to the inaccuracy of this FRT technology, some of the beneficiaries, okay, legitimate beneficiaries may be excluded from the various governmental schemes here. That is one of the issue. Secondly, we have the issue of mass surveillance. Okay, there has been apprehensions that using FRT, the government may start doing mass surveillance. There can be intrusion of the right to privacy. There can be intrusion of some of your fundamental rights. Okay, so these are the issues that have been mentioned in the article. So the issue right now is in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is hearing this issue. So when the Supreme Court comes out with a verdict, or if there are any later developments, we'll look at this issue again. Okay. So that's it from today's video. You can follow us on these social media handles. You can follow us on YouTube, Telegram, Instagram, as well as on Facebook. Thank you.